Hey, and welcome back to Soaring Profits Thursday Night Live. Once again, we have just a wonderful guest with us, Tammy. She kind of dabbles in real estate, has done that for a long time, but she is in love and really enjoys, and as a master NLP trainer. She teaches people how to communicate and build rapport and get better results in life. Tammy's psychological reframing techniques have effectively helped her clients. She's helped people overcome broken relationships, explore mindsets around health and well being, develop mindfulness techniques, learn how to break through beliefs. She's helped a survivor of child abuse and rape. So, along with four life coach certificates, Tammy's is also a licensed realtor. And we are just excited to have you here. She's also a master hypnotherapist.
Mm.
There is just so much in your resume that I don't even know or understand. So let's start, Tammy, so that we can explain to people what is an NLP. What's an NLP? I've never heard that term.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't. So NLP is, well, it's some of the top training in the world, really. Most of the top coaches that you see, like Tony Robbins, Mary Morrissey, those kind of big shots, they've all been through NLP.
Oh,
And the acronym is Neuro Linguistic Programming.
okay.
So, in summary, it's a neurological study, right? And neurological teachings, but it's how we communicate, so neuro linguistic language, and how our programming, meaning what we learned and the frames of reference that we experienced and created for ourselves, how they influence our life and our lives and our decisions. And so in NLP, we help people to recognize things like you mentioned, a limiting belief, something that's holding them back, where they're not able to be a breakthrough and experience their best results. NLP really listens to the client in a different way that helps them to discover their own ownership for the place that they are.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah. So, and each person who's done NLP, I think, takes it in different places in their careers, depending, I guess, on their own specialities, if you will. For instance, my passion really is language, how I communicate with others, how others communicate with themselves, and how that creates how I listen to them differently. That's my big thing. I really dig learning about people by listening to them talk about things. The language they use dictates exactly who they are inside, and they don't even know it. And we've been untaught this. It's something we should all know. We just kind of learned that we should, say certain things at certain times, and everybody, we commiserate about the weather. Um, they've become these social ways of languaging in community, and how we can all have a negative narrative that runs in our head about lots of different things. That's neurological, and it's a language that creates the experience. So those are some things that NLP really digs into.
So Tammy, there's a ton to unpack there, and I think it's a
Yeah.
really interesting process. First of all, like from a business methodology, that's really interesting, and you're helping individuals with your real estate aspect. Uh, Real estate purchases are a very big thing to kind of get over. There's a fear hurdle. There's all of these things, limiting thought processes that go along with that. Definitely cool. Myself, as a kind of a former athlete, my daughter now coming up as an athlete, this is exactly what I've been kind of preaching to her for the last little while, is that, these limiting belief structures that we put out into the world have legitimate consequences if we allow them to take hold. And have you ever done anything like that in regards to kind of, linking like athletics or anything like that with it as well? Is there a lot of research in that type of aspect?
I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but limiting beliefs are one of the easiest things for me to turn around.
Sure. That's interesting.
I can use cognitive behavioral therapy in combination with NLP. We can
Right.
do some realization techniques and visualization stuff that, where we change our language from what's wrong to all the great things that are right. So our focus now expands on all the right things, not the wrong things. Didn't Mother Teresa say it? I would never participate in an anti-war rally. But send me to any peace rally, I'm in. You see, we're
Okay.
either part of the problem or we're part of the solution. Where you put your energy and your language and your focus. And in this world, we say energy flows where attention goes. So what do you want?
Right.
And let's not talk about what we don't want. We all know what that is, and we've all been taught to really rub our faces in that. What do we want? And let's talk more about that. And we forget about that and don't even realize we forgot about it.
That's
See what I'm
very cool.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I talk. I'm a bit of a motivator through the Soaring Profits, our YouTube channel. I talk a lot about self-fulfilling prophecies and stuff like that, which sounds very similar. And it's like you limit yourself. So like you have a 5K run in front of you. I can't tell you how many people who are faced with 5K of running, which I was at one time before I started running more, and they tell me they can't. And I'm like, well, then you can't. You're right. You just told me you can't, so you're never, ever going to do it. What you have to do is say, I can, and these are the steps I'm going to take to get to it. It's really, like you said, it's reprogramming your mind. It's listening. What I had to do was listen to how I talk to myself. How did I talk to myself when I looked in the mirror? What were the words I was saying when I looked in the mirror? And I had to change them. I had to give myself a new narrative, a new language, right?
Yes.
And so that's what you're talking about. So how does that help in areas like you said? So relationship counseling. How does that help in like building a better relationship?
Well, I always think that when we look outside for the solution, we're ripping everybody off. If you see the problem, then it is your problem, right? And how you see it, and it's a problem, and how your partner sees it, and potentially it isn't a problem, or it's a different problem. Those are significant things to talk about. In relationships, it's a matter of how important is that to you. And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of talk about people want to be right more than they want to be harmonious.
Right.
And I believe it was Maslow who did the hierarchy. It was, the person with the most emotional maturity is the one responsible for the change. Right. So sometimes we just need to take a deep breath and say, okay, you know what? This one's not worth it. How important is it to me? Someone once said to me, if I look back on this event in 5 years, am I going to remember it? Yeah. So if it feels real hot right now, it's not going to always be that way. Yep. And another really great tool that I'll leave with a lot of my coaching clients is to say, to find what kind of a person that you would like to be. I mean, let's say that you were to die tomorrow, and what would you want them to say about you at your funeral or your eulogy? What would you want people to say about you?
Right.
Okay. Well, so we write it down. Well, now you have like a schedule. You have like a plan. I now get to decide this is the person I want to be. So this is how I must behave. These are the choices I must now make. If this is who I want to be and that's what I want them to say about me, now's my time. Right? It's ownership, right? It's responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, that hits home on such a unique level. Just with my personal life of late, I've had kind of a large number of family members that have passed away over the last number of years. And when you put it in that light, my father passed away a little over a year ago now. And I remember sitting down and writing his obituary. And I kind of, you're reflecting on all the things, the relationship you had. And my father and I, we were best friends. Mm-hmm. And I have a 13-year-old daughter. She's a single child like I was. And I remember sitting there thinking, just as you had said, is that, one day my daughter will do this. And it's kind of like, what is that, and we've had some guests on here, written legacy, right? Leaving a written legacy and what that means. And you're succinctly breaking that down to, you have to build what you want them to say about you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That is very insightful.
So I think I mentioned that I might channel, so that might have been specifically for you. So,
there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's cool.
So in the format of relationships, they would do that together. Like, what is that what you're saying? Like, what kind of couple do you want to be? The one thing, so I'd like to get back to the one thing that you mentioned, and it's an interesting concept that I talk to a lot of people about now. So I had a failed relationship. I had a 28-year marriage blow up, and a lot of it was because I wanted to be right. I wanted to be, I wanted, I wanted to win the fights. I wanted to be the person that had the higher ground. I always wanted to be in
Right.
charge, right? It wasn't a shared experience.
Right.
And so I think what you're trying to say is that you're teaching them how to frame things in a shared experience. So when they have that adversity, is it really important enough that you want to make your spouse feel lesser? Is it that important, or can you guys find a common ground around this to work?
So, and are you making a decision with your ego
Right.
or your heart?
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of a man do you want to be? And what would that kind of a man do?
Mm-hmm.
And just do that.
Yeah.
And let me just say, your language around your failed marriage was painful to my heart, right?
Yeah.
I had a successful 25-year relationship that ended because I needed to learn to not be right. That's a very different way. You had 25 flipping years, buddy. There's no failure in that.
Right.
None.
Right.
None. Right? So I had a
I had
successful
two
25
beautiful
where I
children.
learned.
Right.
You learned.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
How to be a better you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot since marriage because I
Yeah.
was able to go back and look at the problem areas and take ownership. Like you were just saying, taking ownership is very, very important. We have so many people out there are so busy saying it's their fault.
Again, looking
I took my
outside,
part of it.
blame, shame, complain.
Right. Yeah.
And you ever want to catch yourself in the wrong mindset, determine if you're one of those things is what you're participating in. They are of no value to you, to your forward movement, to that man you'd like to be, to the people you'd love to affect, to the example you're hoping, to stand up to. So pay attention to your language, and be sure to pay attention to the language that you hear, because if perception is projection, I'm going to guarantee you guys, you've heard, you're the sum of the top 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a little dig at me, just so you know.
Okay.
I am in serious trouble then, Tammy. I'm coming down to Waterloo.
Yeah. So, and look at that.
Amazing. I bring you up and you know it.
And so if you want to be lifted up and you're the smartest one in the group, you're in the wrong group. Right? Okay.
I gotta move on. Sorry, Pat, I gotta move on. It was nice knowing you, buddy. We had a good
There was a pause there. There was a pause there where we're both weighing which one's walking. We're both weighing which one's out the door. I love it. No, Tammy, I look back into relationships and friendships that I've had, and that cannot be more concise. I remember running with a group of kids, when I was younger, playing hockey, playing sports, and there was moments where you'd look around and you go, nope, can't do this anymore, right? As you mature and you grow. Yes. Sorry?
Brilliant.
Right. And then as you mature and you grow and you find that next group and that next group and the next group. And I learned something from all of them. And, when I was a younger man, there were some real bandits that I hung around with, and I never got involved with them, but I could always be around, have a good time, enjoy it. But I never ended up in trouble like some of them did.
Right.
And then you kind of see the writing on the wall. You're like, oh, no, I got to get out of here. This is going to become a problem.
Yeah.
And then you go to that next group. And now I hang around with like old men like James, and I can't get rid of them.
We're motivators and shakers and changers of the world.
That's it.
But you're absolutely right. Not only am I uplifted, like over the last, I'd say 7 years, 10 years, I have really looked at the people that I've been around. And Pat's one of the people. He's a marketing and money guru. So he has really lifted me up. I joke around, but we're tight best friends, and he is really one of the most brilliant men in the room. But I also find
I'm not saying it back. I'm just taking the W on that one. I'm not saying it back.
Take it. Take it.
Taking the W,
buddy. Take the win. It's okay. I have a big enough ego. But also, what I found back in the day, there were times I was embarrassed. Like I would go to a room with friends, or I'd go to a party with friends, and they would do something stupid, and then they're a representation of me wherever I go. Or even worse, I would bring them to my dad, and they would do something in front of my dad, and I would be so embarrassed and have to apologize to my dad for the people that are in my life. Like my dad used to say, you want someone who will stand beside you in times of trouble and not run away. And you want someone who's a stand-up person. So you're absolutely right. It's very important to pick the people around you. I love that.
And be very aware that while we can language, James, that we're picking them, what is
Mhm.
actually picking them is who we are, the
Mhm.
energy that we project. They will be, all of them, a mirror of you in some way. And they'll
Right.
be there for you in some way, as you will be for them in some way. And when you can begin to look at your relationships as if, what have I got to contribute here? What mirror is this reflection? What is the reflection I'm seeing? Right?
Right.
How can that afford me the opportunity to look more closely inside? Because that's what invited them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So what is it about them? And often the clues, if you'd like to start experimenting with this, the clues are if it gives you a feeling. Do you know what I mean? Like uh somebody
Right.
does something, like my roommate, she's like, she doesn't put things away. Okay, got it? I'm like, "Ooh, okay, that's
Yeah.
my problem, right? That's my problem." So it
Yeah.
has afforded me the opportunity to look inside and go, "Okay, why is that your problem? What's the problem with that? Who
Right.
cares? In 5 years, am I gonna la la la? And what is it about me that okay? So I'm anybody else would say it drives me crazy when she fill in the blank. I say, what is it about that that's coming from me?
Yeah.
That's how you can have a more harmonious relationship.
So you're reverse engineering this in that kind of personas. You're taking the things that are external that you can't control, reversing them, controlling the things that you can, and kind of subtly trying to know the difference.
I would love to say that when you were small, you knew exactly what I'm talking about. And you've been untaught that and taught that other stuff you just spewed out, whatever that was.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no, you're wrong. I think she said it in a nice way.
So break that down for me a bit
Yeah,
then. Okay,
right,
so
yeah.
let's use the
Okay.
sock thing because I think it was actually Lisa Browning who we had on here one time, and I'm like, I think we used the sock example
Yep.
about relationships,
Yeah.
where it's like I'm busy guy, right? So you've got to. I've had ex relationships where they're like, hey, the socks, and I'm like, yeah, it's not on my radar, and they're like,
Sock is
but
I
it
important.
had a
needs
sock
to be.
guy.
Yeah.
I had
Right.
a sock guy.
And
We fixed it. It was okay. It's funny because 20 years later, we broke up and he came over and helped me with my reno, and he left a pair of socks here.
That's
Yes.
good.
Tammy, what you're telling me is that you've had some growth with the socks
Yeah.
over this time.
Yeah.
I
You know what
appreciate
I
it.
said to him? Actually, at that time, this was a big lesson for me, Pat. Maybe this will help you or her. I don't know. Throw it out gently, because we can be sensitive about that stuff. And I get it where she's coming from. What I said was, I realized that if you got in a car crash or something and died tomorrow, I would friggin' miss your socks all over the house. I would
Right.
miss them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just pick them up.
Right.
Up. That's what I
Now, so
said.
Lisa was on me and she's like, you need to do that for her. And I'm like,
Yes.
but that was so I'm going back into relationships of my past. Like this is not
Okay,
an
good.
active
Oh yeah.
situation.
Okay. Good.
You don't have to worry about anyone running in the room and throwing socks at me at the moment. Right. But what I'm saying is that so like your experience, I would be more apt to do that. Like that's very much like me. And I think masculine thinking. I'm gonna genderize that, and I'll get in shit for that later, I'm sure. But guys, when they, in my experience, is that when they see something that needs to be done, they just go do it. Whereas in my experience, it felt like she was looking for me to do that because it was important to her, and that was how I was showing her like love, which
So
to
the
me,
love
that's not
language.
how I show you love.
Yeah, the love language. Have you read that book?
But like that to me, I go,
No, neither of us have read that book.
It's called The
Right.
5 Love Languages, and it might help you. If you can define the love language that your partner uses, it will help you to, you know, earn some brownie points.
not getting shit for socks.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
understand. Go ahead.
and not just not getting shit, but be able to turn it around so that it's a nice thing and you can laugh about it together, and you know what I mean? There's no shame or blame or complain in it. Again, right?
Yeah.
And Tanya asked me this question once. It was a horrible thing going on, and she said, "What if it were good?" And I really felt I wanted to beat her up for saying it, because it couldn't have been good anyway in my head at that time.
Right.
And she kept saying, "But what if it were? But what if it were?" And it really forced me to go, "Okay, well, all right. If it were, then blah blah blah." And then you can start to change the frozenness of your perception of that thing.
So you're just saying that both of us in that situation, I need to grow up and not be so stubborn, and she has to grow up and not be so stubborn, and we have to come meet somewhere where she puts a basketball net on the sock container and I'll just shoot it in,
Right.
like walk back as a 3-pointer and be like, look at that.
I feel like that would work.
I love it. I love
Especially if it was
that.
videotaped and you could see your highlights later.
I just saved so many marriages. You're welcome.
See, that's
You know
beautiful.
what? We're gonna make that the basketball sock hamper, and we'll call it Soaring Profits.
Soaring Profits? Yeah, right. Focus on what's important. Focus on the things you can change. Pay attention to the things that make you feel good. Send your energy out to the world. Again, that book by Saint Germain, it talks about the power of our language and how we have to participate in sharing positivity everywhere we go. It's our responsibility. We're either part of the problem or we're part of the solution. You're either sharing love or you're experiencing fear. I'm just saying, let's be braver and start sharing love the way we were untaught to.
Right.
Oh boy, that just poured out of me, guys.
I think it's also important on the line that you're talking about. What's important is that we take the chance to communicate. We take the chance to fully communicate. Really, she should say, you know why it drives me crazy that the socks are on the floor, and be not just because you're an asshole and you're lazy. It should be because, when I was a kid, my parents were all over me about getting these, so it really bothers me when there's socks on the floor. It makes me anxious, or it makes me feel whatever, and have a real communicative discussion about it so that you fully understand it. Whereas instead of just pointing fingers, instead of yelling at each other over socks that don't matter, the socks don't matter. It's the reason it's happening, right?
Patrick, how it makes you feel when she shames you that way is also extremely relevant. Okay? So how could you then turn that around with her so that shame isn't a part of the experience for either of you?
Right.
So that fear, there's this strategy we learn in NLP, and strategies are what we use to everything, really. We have a strategy. You get in your car, you sit down, you push the button. I put my seatbelt on. I put the window down a little bit. I put it in drive off. I go, it's a system. I get up in the morning. I go pee. I brush my teeth. Blah blah blah. That's a system. Our brain loves that stuff, right? Oh shoot! I lost my train of thought. Get me back where I was.
Well, talking about how he feels like he's being embarrassed, or
right. Yeah, I know I was. But
did that help? No. So I think what you're referring to, the fact that he has to communicate the fact that is how it's making him feel, and without worrying about.
So your language. Oh yeah, towards and away from. Thank you. The NLP strategy. We use strategies for everything. In NLP, when we're looking at the psychological reasoning for the strategy, does it serve us? For instance, you have a strategy that when she says that, I feel shame. Let's just call it that. Okay.
Sure.
I don't know if that's it, but let's just say that.
Sure.
That's a strategy for you. Somebody else did something at some time that programmed that frame of reference for you to have that neurological pathway to that experience of shame. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So when what you do is you react to the shame because it's painful and you try to go away from it. So you're going to do whatever it is that you have developed as a strategy to move away from the shame, right? And I'm saying in an NLP, we learn the strategies that are only the ones that are effective are the towards. So we're going to go towards harmony, towards community, towards communication, towards honesty, towards bravery, towards unity, towards, and not away from fear and shame and hurt and guilt and embarrassment. Those strategies to move away from, invite more. The strategies to move towards harmony and love and forgiveness and maturity and acceptance and unconditional love and awareness and maturity. Make sense?
Absolutely. And it is a maturity that, like you said earlier, and you said it a couple of times now, is that it's a maturity that I think that you probably had in, childhood, because you would just say, I want, I need, I this, I that. And then it's kind of trained out of us where, that, you have to cope. You have to create this strategy. And then all of a sudden your communication skills are stifled to the point where you aren't able to communicate as efficiently and effectively, even though the world is telling you that now you're more accepted.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a reversal of what is real. That's interesting. That's a really
kind of taught that we're supposed to put other people first, and we're not supposed to tell people our thoughts and our needs and our wants.
Social conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been conditioned that our wants should take second if we love someone.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so wrong. I mean, the best analogy.
Explain that to me. So Tammy, you said a mouthful there. Like when you say that's wrong. So myself,
so wrong.
I'm gonna put myself into a relationship for my child, my daughter. There's nothing in the world that I wouldn't do for her, but I also understand that there are limits to what I can do for her, or there will be negative outcomes because she will be incompetent. So how do you, there is a balance there that you kind of, it.
How old is
you can't do it all.
How old is your child?
Walk that line.
How old is your child?
13.
Oh, God bless you.
She's lovely.
Yes, good.
You only talk back every other sentence.
I'm going to say this again, Pat, because I think you need to hear it again. Because you're hard on yourself. And I believe that we should have a conversation regarding your perception of your own worth and your own value. And I say that because
that is the first time I have ever heard that. Those of you, no, I'm kidding. I appreciate you.
Okay.
I am usually the guy who is like,
oh, I can tell.
Who the fuck's this guy? Yeah. So I appreciate that. That is funny. I appreciate that on so many levels. There are people watching this right now that are dying.
No.
But yeah.
Well, so I'm just going to give you some power with regards to how much impact you have on this child.
Right.
And how much you think you have. Okay. First of all, your example of life, how you live, the choices you make, how you express yourself, the people around you, what you choose to wear, what you speak, what you think about yourself, how you groom yourself, what you drive, what you care about money, all of those things are what you're teaching her without speaking. Just when you get up every day, those are the things she's learning by your existence. So let's look at within that, how could you empower her to be a better her? Because I'm going to guarantee you she is 50% you. Right. There is a massive 50% a big connection or more that you can connect with. So why don't you think about what you can do?
Right.
And not what you can, shouldn't, don't want to, afraid of, blah, 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 away from, and go towards, oh my gosh. In the futuristic movies you watch where they nurture children's abilities from the young ages, it's very sort of quantum physics stuff where we're born with certain skills or abilities, right? And and we've been untaught them here, which is very true. One bad family environment can take an Einstein out of commission. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So taking responsibility. Okay, great book, by the way, that you will love, based on who I see you to be. Extreme Ownership. It was written by a Navy SEAL. Have you read it?
I
Greg
have not. No.
Greg something. Extreme Ownership. Write it down, guys. Unbelievable book. Perfect for you two gentlemen. And it's what we were talking about before. How you're responsible for your experience, and this sort of gives it to you at get up and make your bed every day, kind of grassroots level. Yeah.
Right.
So I would suggest to you again, if your language, the thing you think you want to change, whatever it is, the conversation that you're having because you think it's not right now, ask yourself, is there blame? Is there shame? Are you complaining? Are you contributing to the beautifulness or exposing the negativity, therefore growing that? Just make your choices based on that. What you focus on expands. Attention goes where energy goes, where attention flows. You have this power. And your language, I am, I intend to, I will. I look forward to this happening. I can't wait. It's set up. I'm there now. This is exciting. Not, oh my God, I'm only going to be happy if and when and if, you know what I mean? No. Conditional happiness, conditional success, conditional. We are perfect now. And everything we need to know will be shown to us when we're ready to hear it. When the student's ready, the teacher appears.
Right.
That's right.
You don't
I
hear
have a short video series, 7 days, called The Domino Journey, and it's all about that. I don't frame it in that way. I don't tell people that it's about changing your mindset or seeing the world in a positive light, but that's basically what it is. It starts off with just do 3 things every day that make you good, like make your bed, make sure your dishes are done, so that when you come home, you have a clean slate and you're ready to go. One of the days is just telling other people something positive about them. I like your scarf. I really like the way you help children. I think it's beautiful. And it's all about changing your mindset into a positive light and changing the voice inside your head into a positive without even noticing it. And
Well, let me
you're watching motivational videos, and there's a lot to this 7 day thing, but it's about changing the voice in your head. It's about learning to be more positive, to not see everything as negative, not see that I'm late for work. So there's a big thing that there's this thing where the 9/11, when the two towers came down, there's a bunch of people who didn't die in the two towers. And when you hear why they didn't die, you really look at your life and go, it's okay, I'm stuck in traffic. Because literally one of the guys was stuck in traffic. That's why I'm not dead. I was stuck in traffic. Or I had an argument with someone. Or my dog took off and I had to go find them. Like, I don't know the specific ones, but I'm just making it up right now.
Right.
But that's what they're like. And if you examine that and you go, okay, well, maybe this is divine timing. I'm big on divine timing. Maybe it's just this is the way it's supposed to be, so that maybe I walk into my work at the exact time that I run into someone I'm supposed to run into, and it changes my life forever. If we stop getting all so worked up on what we perceive we're missing out on, and enjoy what we are achieving, I think it's just a better life. And that comes with when we were back in the green room, which the profiteers know about, we talk about all the time, that we talk before we start. You were talking about choices and outcomes. And I think that's where this comes in. We have the choice to think positive, even during the negative times. Like, I spilled coffee all over my shirt. Okay, well, I go and change my shirt. I come back and maybe I'm 5 minutes late, but that changes something so that I don't get into a car accident or something.
We don't know.
Right? So I choose not to get upset about it.
Right.
There are choices and outcome.
Correct. And how we perceive it. And I like to use this. Life is happening for us, not to us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everything that's happening is for us. Everything that's happening is for us. And so how we take it in, learn from it, whatever, is our choice. And let me tell you, if you don't get it the first time, it'll get a little heavier next time, and so on and so forth, right? Because it is happening for you. So until you see it, it'll keep happening for you, right? Until you get it, just period, blank, right? So, and they're gifts, right? They're gifts, but we've been taught to externalize them. We've been taught to focus on the blame, shame, complain, the negative, and also that neurological stuff that we talk about NLP. That's what that is. Those are neuroplastic highways that have been created that run on their own.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything, and your mind goes there, right? Right. That's an unconscious behavior. And in NLP, we talk a lot about the conscious mind and the unconscious mind and the collective consciousness. Okay. So the unconscious mind is everything that runs your body. Well, your conscious mind is everything you think about, and your unconscious mind is everything else. So it beats your heart. It flows your blood, it replenishes your tissue. That's unconscious. We don't have to think about that. It's just done for us in our bodies. Okay. So that's unconscious. Conscious is a movement, a reaction to my choice. In the unconscious mind, you have your negative narratives and your neuroplastic highways and systems and models that you've built in there, and frames of reference and paradigms and projections and perceptions of things. Yeah. And you've created this whole little reality that exists in your unconscious mind, and you do not have to think about it. It happens for you. And then you end up with some sort of feeling and then an action. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So you got to look at the programming to start this, to determine. First, you got to notice when you're doing it. Number one, notice. Oh, look at that. There, I did that again, right? Does that serve me? Is it working for me? Did it get what I wanted? Right? Yeah. No. Then okay. Well, what would I do, or could I do? How would I want to? What guy do I want to be? What example do I want to set? What do I want them to say about me? And let's change it to that, right? So, but because you've had this much practice, that highway is pretty ingrained. You're going to need practice to make the new one for it. So you're going to have to practice it. And that's where a lot of people have difficulty, is they'll try it for a little while and they work, and then it's hard. They have a propensity to get back into the, oh my God, poor me, or whatever, the victim, right? Externalizing, because a lot of people have fear about taking responsibility for where they are in their worlds. And it's the biggest power anybody could ever take.
Tammy, it's so interesting chatting with you, because through our journey here with Soaring Profits, we have interviewed people all different walks of life, very dynamic stories, that sort of thing. And all of the people that we have been lucky enough to interview they tend to be a bit of an older crowd that we've interviewed so far. And all of them have had a unique journey from when they were exactly like you were saying, where they were the pity party, me, like things are happening to me, victimhood, all of these things. And some of them legitimately have been victimized in their life. And then most of the people that we've had here that have turned it around, and they've turned it into such an extreme positive in their life, this traumatic situation that happened to them in their childhood now has become an ideological perspective of such extreme positivity for them. And like the stories that they've told, the average Jim, Jane, or Judy walking around the streets, if these people can do it, this is not impossible.
No.
Right? Take absolute deepest, darkest victimhood you can have, turn it and make it an ideological positive. Tammy, I think it's really cool work what you do. And obviously, I love what you're saying.
What do you think makes the difference, Pat? What do you think makes the difference between somebody who could do what you're saying? You've had people talk to you about how they've taken those experiences, and I'm certain that you've had other people who also have had the other reactions. So what do you think makes the difference?
I think part of it is the people around them. Like some of the experiences that we talk about are that the people around them rose them up and made them higher up. Some of it was religion.
Okay.
So for me, if I was saying it, I think that it's at some point they came to an emotional maturity, right? And that's what I would categorize it as, is that there's an emotional maturity that came around and going that I'm hitting walls everywhere I go. I have to step aside. And whether that's I need to stop running into walls, I need to stop thinking I'm in control of this situation. I need to stop drinking. I need to stop drugs. I need to stop.
Yeah, you get to that point where like, that's enough. And your back's against the wall.
Right.
And I'm either going forward or down, right?
100%. And that's where, again, when we've had the opportunity to interview these people, when they've hit that, James likes to call it like a point of impact.
Point of
Yeah.
impact.
right? It's their low point. They're like, where do I go from here?
Pivotal moment.
Right. That moment, when that maturity comes, if it's utilized, I'm a stock trader. So for me, that's a bottoming, and the run up, the going long is the best thing you can possibly do, right? When you get that bottom timed perfectly, you've got the greatest potential profitability that you can have. And that's what it sounds like. The moment that you can make that emotional maturity, as I'm calling it, that pivot, that point of impact, that I'm not sure what you would call it.
Yeah, let's talk. Let's throw around some language about it, Pat. What about if we called it a mindset?
Sure. Yeah.
What about if we called it
it is definitely taking people who feel like a victim and are drowning their sorrows with drugs and alcohol. Like, these are literally what they're telling us, that, like, I was a victim. I felt awful about it. I could not face it. So I drowned myself with alcohol. My personal experience is I lived through life. I had some tragedies myself, and I drowned it myself with food. And I became a very large man until I started facing the reality of it. This is what I'm doing. I get sad, so I eat. So I learned how to change my mindset, because I had a point of impact, and I looked at it and went, why do I eat all the time? Well, now I have to examine why I eat. Right. Why do you reach for a drink? Why do you do drugs? Is it because I'm trying to turn off my brain? For me, it was because I was making false joy. Well, so now I got to replace that with another suitcase. I got to replace that. I got to change my mindset and grab another suitcase of joy. So for me, I found running. Running gives me like endorphins, like I can't even explain. And if anyone wants to go running, I'm telling you right now, if you start running, the endorphins you get from it are like no other.
I'm an indoor cyclist.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a spinning instructor. So I get them on the bike.
Yeah. That's just it. Anything physical.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are suffering from depression, mental health, even if you are like Pat and everything's great and you have the best life in the world, going out and doing these things, these harder things. I'm not talking about walking. Walking doesn't give it to you. You got to push your body so that your heart's beating strong and you get this surge of endorphins. It changes your life. Your brain, the chemistry in your brain is joyful.
Pat, you'd like that freezing, that jump into the freezing water stuff. That's your shtick. Would you do it?
You know what's funny? Yeah. It's really funny you say that. I have done it before. And my daughter and I were watching something the other day, and she's like, I don't know how people could do that. And it wasn't until she said, I don't know how people can do that. So my family, we have racehorses, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we've got feed barrels back in the barn. Like we just fill them up, put them on the back deck, and go tomorrow. But literally for me, it wasn't until I heard her say that limiting factor where it was like, we should do this. Yeah. Like this is something that maybe we should put on the back deck. Yeah. And then you can.
Yeah. So, I love that. And if you who was it that said, I think it was Einstein? No, William Blake said, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Yeah, I think you said that earlier, absolutely. James. Yeah. And what you think about it, like I used to date this guy. They drank too much and he would lose his jobs all the time, right? And I'd be a stress bag thinking, oh, we're going to not be able to pay the rent and whatever, right? And he would say to me, I can't get a job. I can get a job anytime. And the guy did. And fast forward 20 years later, still the same guy. I get a job anytime. And he does. Because he just has no...
There's such a saying out there, and crack addicts and heroin addicts don't go without crack and heroin.
They don't.
So it's amazing how when it comes down to break or bust, they somehow come up with it. So if you can't come up with something for your kid to be successful or your loved one to feel accomplished, that's your crack. Go make it happen.
Yeah. And make sure when you're putting hope and expectation on your children that it's theirs success that you're
don't worry about that.
I think it's important, and I push this Soaring Profits wise. you really have to work on yourself, and that inspires others to work on themselves.
Yes.
So like I wish I had known this when I had kids, because like obviously I was a mentor for my kids, and they saw what I did, and they learned from that, and they learned both negative and they learned positive. Because usually the negative and the positive are taught through mentoring and through modeling. It's called modeling. But now I think it's important, if you work on yourself, take the time. It's not selfish. We always think it's selfish if we have to make sure the house is clean. We have to make sure our kids have everything they need. You have to take the time for yourself, even if you're a parent, even if you're taking care of someone. You still need those moments in the day, every day. You need like an hour where you go for a run, read a book, and not feel guilty about it. There is nothing wrong with working on yourself, because the more happier you are, the more your children will see what happiness is, and know that it's okay to be yourself, instead of giving up your whole life for someone else.
Why couldn't we teach them that? Why couldn't we say, okay, today you're going to make your bed, da, da, da. So we have 4 quadrants. We have to pay attention to each one of these quadrants to be good human beings. We have to pay attention to our own self-care and self-love. So grooming and, doing things that you enjoy. We have to pay attention to our family. How are we going to make our siblings feel better? How are we going to contribute to our family and our community? And teach children what's important about being a good person. And then and living that, because you're living it, giving them examples of how they can contribute to enrich the lives of all the other. So they're an example. So they're not untaught all the beautiful things that they know at that time they can do, and they have no restrictions and no limiting beliefs. Give them that power and embrace it and nurture that and grow and put seeds in it and water it. And the magic, your 13-year-old, the magic power she has right now, and if you could harness that, I mean, they're supercharged. They're like hydrogen bombs of energy that age.
His daughter is literally amazing. There was this backflip that she couldn't do, and so she convinced her dad to buy a balance beam for her, and she spent hour after hour after hour because she knew she could do it. And I don't know, Pat, how long did it take her to learn it?
It was a while. It was a hot minute, and there was lots of tears, and there was lots of all that. And then one day she just did it. Yeah. And then, Tammy, we're getting to that point in the conversation where we got to start wrapping it up here.
Okay.
But I want to thank you very much. This has been all over the map, but it has been truly one of the most enjoyable conversations I've had with Soaring Profiteer in a long time, if not ever. You truly come out of this with a place of passion. You come out of a place from just a beautiful place in your heart, and you truly care about other people. And you're sitting there and you're explaining these things, and you just keep checking boxes off in my head. So I want to thank you for joining us tonight. James, who do we got next week?
I don't know.
Good. We'll see that. I believe it's not. Tammy, I want to thank you very much. This has been such a fantastic opportunity to have you. We'll definitely have you on again. And basically what we do is at the end of these conversations, and I kind of alluded to this but we always stick you with the last word. And how we do that is that I have a sign off, James has a sign off, and then we throw it to you at the end, and you get to sign off whatever you want to say to the world in the last couple minutes, and we go from there. But Tammy, truly, I have very much enjoyed tonight. I appreciate what you're doing out there and the energy that you're putting out there into the world. I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't think there's enough people doing what you're doing. And if there's any way that we can, megaphone your voice and what you're trying to do, please, I'd love to be able to do that with you. And again, all the profiteers out there, crazy stuff going on in the world today with the financial markets, but these are all positive things like Tammy's looking at right now. We're looking at opportunities to take short positions. We need to be looking to move money into safer platforms. And that's where we got to focus on right now, is knowing the next categories to hit. Right? If we're looking at recessionary stuff, where are we going? Are we going to consumer staples? Are we looking to energy? Are we looking to these? We've got to be transitioning. And I'm hoping to do a couple spots this week and talk about what we just had with the meeting down in the States with the FOMC and Jerome Powell, because that's going to be Tammy. She's talking about interest rates every day with her customers in the real estate business. It affects our lives, and we have to be having these conversations. So from me, profiteers out there, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys more than I can say. We got some cool stuff coming down the pipe. We got an event coming up in the next month and a half here down in Guelph, doing a very cool thing that we're just putting the final touches on, but it's going to be really unique and really cool. And as always for me, let's make some money together, guys. Thank you again, Tammy.
Talking about choices and not self-limiting ourselves. We're about to embark on a mission that neither Pat or I have ever done, but we both are very confident that not only can we do it, but it'll be a beautiful thing and a message that we need to get out there. So next week is Pamela. She's an expert in children's sexual abuse, and she helps them learn in a creative, transformative way to help themselves and come out of that. She's also an author of The Woman Who Picked Up Her Child, which is based on a journal entries made by Pamela through her own therapy. I think it's going to be a great conversation. As always, for Pat and I, those are the tough ones where it's real, it's raw. And when someone shares their own experience, both of us are always astounded at how brave someone is to share something so in depth and so in a positive light. Usually these people positively spin these tragedies that have happened to them, and the fact that they could, like we were talking about today, these people could easily close up their doors and become the victim, and give up, but they don't. This Pamela has used her experiences to become not only a great person, but help others. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and I can't wait. And Tammy, I feel that likely something similar has happened, like you have used your life experiences to become this wonderful guru and a positive source of change for others in the world. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Anytime we can help one person, I love the starfish story where, profiteers know about it. I've said it before, but anyway, starfish story. If you can help one person a day, a moment, it's
in your lifetime.
Yeah. So I just heard the story that this guy was walking to, so I don't know how true the story is, but this is the story. This guy left a suicide note, and he said, if one person smiles at me on my way to the bridge, I won't jump. That was the suicide note. And he jumped and killed himself. So that means not one person smiled at him.
It also means, it doesn't mean that, James. It means he didn't smile, so he couldn't see one.
Sure, there's that too. But what my point is that if we take the time to share that positivity to strangers, to random people, if we stop to hold a door, if we stop to pick up something for someone, if we just take a moment,
person you want to be.
You're a beautiful person. I can't believe you did that. I think the world would be such a better place, and I'm very happy. And I'd just like to say thank you, Tammy, for coming on. Thank you for changing our world and the people around us, and the people who are going to watch this. Their life is forever changed. I know it. Profiteers out there, let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together.
And Tammy, this is where we stick you with the last word. You got a few minutes. Take your time. Give us your last word.
Well, I might give you, first of all, the superpower, okay? The superpower that you get to decide whatever outcome of whatever situation you want it to be. So you were talking about embarking on a new endeavor, and I just want to touch on that. I would encourage you and anybody when we're thinking about achieving or projecting forward to an accomplishment of some sort, write the story how you'd like to tell it when it's over.
Right.
Write it. Write a whole story and get real excited about it and talk about all the great things that are going to happen because of it and all these doors that you couldn't possibly have imagined that have opened for you that you had no idea ever existed, and write the story of the outcome that is the dream. And don't limit yourself. Write things like, or even better, or imagine even bigger than that, and bigger than I could ever imagine, those kinds of things. And let the universe use that power to bring to you. And what will happen to you when you start to do that guys. This is Napoleon Hill stuff. Okay. This is not just brand new today. It's a long time. Okay. When you start to do that, you see things happening that bring you closer to there. Suddenly relate to that. Oh my gosh, that wouldn't have happened if that guy didn't do that. And look at that. Okay.
Okay.
Start thinking that way. Write your story how you want it to be. And then let the world deliver it to you, instead of complaining about the story that you don't have before you've even, okay?
Yep.
Dialogue. Your language is your power. How you speak it is how you will live it. And my tagline in my email for a while was, watch your language. It's the screenplay of your life. Your
Yeah.
language is the screenplay of you.
True. Yeah.
So watch it and notice yourself. The more you notice, the more you can see if it serves you and it's on your list of the guy you want to be. And never underestimate your superpower. Fall in love with yourself and take good care of you so that you can teach those around you to fall in love with themselves and take good care of them. And the airplane analogy, if you're going down in an airplane, is it selfish to put your mask on?
No.
If you don't put your mask on, you're going to be able to help that person who can't get theirs?
Nope.
That's what
Right.
this is, people.
Yeah.
That's what this is.